Okay, good afternoon everyone. My name is Janita and today I will be presenting my international strategic plan for Frogmore Creek. And without further ado, let's just get into it. So Frogmore Creek is a family-owned winery located in the southern regions of Tasmania, and it's basically recognized as Tasmania's most award-winning winery. For its unique taste in Australian-grown grapes, it appeals to local consumers, especially in the Australian domestic market, with which it has had a lot of success. The cool conditions and ripe climate for vine growth has also appealed to this, and it pertains to its quality, which Frogmore Creek itself holds themselves upon and holds themselves against, particularly known for their wine tastings as well. So if we have a look at the multiple locations that Frogmore Creek has, it is directly related to purely wine tastings, which is another reason why Frogmore Creek is so successful, because they're able to show why their quality outstands and outthrows everybody else in the domestic market. So with this in mind, they hope to expand internationally and diversify their product range. Now, with this in mind, the targeted market and the targeted country that I will be discussing is South Korea. So let's get into So on a macro analysis level, we can see here that politically, South Korea has had a lot of shifts. It has a lot of changes. Economically, you see the GDP has been from 43,000 US dollars, and this has been increasing. This was taken from 2019. That, as well as it's ranked 13 out of the 141 countries regarding global competitiveness. And this has been purely from the transitioning that they've had to focus on education and technology. And this is because they have a lack of natural resources. In conjunction to this, it has been highly dependent on imports to support the economy. There's been a rapid increase in income rates as well, which is interesting because education and technological advancements have been pertaining to this. On a political standpoint, I'd just like to bring to your attention chaebols, which are arguably a limitation to entering into South Korea. Because they are large family-orientated clusters who oversee the business doings. South Korea at the present is government-oriented, therefore they have a lot of control over the business doings. And just a small analysis on the social values as well that I'd like to put attention to is how they are different to Australia. So Australia is more individualistic. They do things based on their opinions, whereas South Korea is more collectivist. If you see in the Hofstede country comparison, it's ranking 18 in individualism, thus pertaining to the idea that South Korea is very group-based. Everything that they do together. And this is an embodiment of chaebols as well, which is also pertain to the fact that economic growth has been because of this. So South Korea on a wine industry level is very competitive. If we have a look at the Porter's Diamond model, and I want to pay attention to specifically demand conditions. So South Korea has focused on imports to increase their GDP, which has been in some cases successful. Now, collectivist attitudes affect business and lifestyle, as we've seen in the macro analysis. This is also evident in microanalysis, wherein if we have a look at this table here, 79.9% of South Korean respondents who undertook the survey quoted that drinking when dining with friends or acquaintances was preferred. Not only this, but drinking when dining with colleagues was also at 67% of respondents. So it's entirely group-based. Because of South Korea's highly competitive environment, economic environment in particular, it's had a sales focus rather than a market focus. So South Korea has focused on selling product rather than the quality that the product itself holds. And that's through e-marts and convenience stores, thus targeting millennials in particular because it's a leisure product. And that's making it such as a very intensely competitive industry. The Blue Ocean strategy highlights that it's creating a new market. And that's exactly what we want to do with Frogmore Creek, because it's such an overly saturated market. And we see a lot of large firms overtaking small firms in this instance and targeting millennials as such. It is therefore recommended that Frogmore Creek aim towards a targeted niche. And in this instance, it's 30 to 50-year-old males. So in saying this, Frogmore Creek has a competitive advantage where good quality that they pertain to and that they stand by in their products can then be transferred over to South Korea, where in which can attract high social status men who enjoy drinking collectively, who enjoy drinking during business meetings, and who enjoy drinking as a way to sort of build relationships. The targeted mode of entry in this case is exporting using joint ventures. And if we have a look at the Uppsala model, it pertains to the idea that market knowledge is gained over time. And if we take this into consideration, in which we are entering into a newly developed country with standards that are completely different to Australia, this would be the best option because we'd be able to not only sell the product, but also gain market knowledge at the same time. Through the CAFTA, which is the Korean Australian Free Trade Agreement, there has been an introduction of a 0% tariff to all imports, which is beneficial to Frogmore. Foreign wine accounts for 72% of total alcohol consumption, while Korea only generates 40% of that. It is therefore recommended that westernized restaurants be the target location when considering joint ventures, typically because we want to keep our foreign aspect of Frogmore Creek relevant in South Korea. We want to be differentiated between all these other wines that are circulating by bringing that Australian feel, that quality feel. So marketing channels such as word of mouth and on-premise management are the best ways to enter into the market, typically because if we educate people on the quality of our wine, on the quality of Frogmore Creek's wine, we will therefore be able to generate a better revenue perspective. In addition to this, it has been recommended that the hosting of wine tastings for managers also be conducted. So whether a manager is invited to Tasmania purely for wine tasting, or whether a representative goes over to South Korea to offer our wine tastings, completely dependable. This will therefore build relationships with the joint venture that we are targeting in order to mitigate the risks of arguments and future business fallouts. In sum, Frogmore Creek can enter into the South Korean market through exporting and joint ventures. As a result of this, we will be able to build close relationships with South Korea in which they value, as well as just having a better general idea of the market that we're about to enter into. Given that Frogmore Creek has such a motivation to internationalize into different markets, it will therefore make it a great asset to South Korean wine markets in general. Thanks.